In the golden times when the sky touched the hills, there lived a man named Dingane. He was not an ordinary man. From his first breath, it was said the ancestors had gifted him with the spirit of Ingwe, the leopard. He grew tall and broad, with muscles that coiled like pythons and eyes that saw the grass bend from a mile away. By 20 reigns, he was the strongest warrior of the Hlubi clan. By 25, he was their Induna, their chief's right hand. Dingane's power was not just in his spear arm. He had a voice that could calm a storm or stir a heart to fury. He led hunts that never failed and settled disputes with wisdom that seemed to flow from the old mountains themselves. The people loved him, and the elders saw in him a future chief. He wore a headdress of leopard skin, and around his neck hung a talisman, a single, perfect leopard's tooth, the symbol of his primal power. But within Dingane's powerful chest beat a heart with a flaw, a crack that would one day split a mountain. His eyes, so keen for the hunt, would grow clouded and hot at the sight of a beautiful woman. A flicker of a smile, the swing of a bead skirt, the sound of laughter from the riverbank, it would stir in him a hunger that had nothing to do with a lion's courage and everything to do with a hyena's greed. He began to see the women of the homestead not as sisters, mothers, or future wives to be courted with respect, but as antelope to be pursued. He would use his charm, his position, and sometimes, the subtle threat of his power to draw them close. A young woman betrothed to another would find Dingane gifting her father extra cattle. A shy girl at the grinding stone would hear his honeyed whispers. For a time, his prowess and status protected him. Murmurs began, but they were drowned out by songs of his other deeds. The crack in the mountain was hidden by flowers. One evening, as Dingane walked alone by the Umfolozi River, basking in his own glory, he saw a woman bathing in a moonlit pool. Her beauty was unlike any other. Her skin seemed to glow like wet amber, and her movements were like water itself. Desire, sharp and urgent, flooded him. He stepped forward, announcing his presence with a confident call. The woman turned. Her eyes were deep pools of night, holding no fear, only an ancient knowing. "I know you, Dingane, leopard of the Hlubi," she said, her voice the sound of reeds whispering. "I am Nomkhubulwane, the daughter of this river and the sky. I am the spirit of rain, fertility, and balance." Dingane, used to conquest, was undeterred. His lust burned even brighter at her otherworldly grace. "Then you should be with a man of power," he boasted. "Come, walk with me. I will build you a hut finer than any spirit's dwelling." Nomkhubulwane's expression cooled. "I see your power, son of the leopard. But I also see the worm in your fruit. You confuse strength with taking, and leadership with possession. Your isthumbu, lust, is a fire you cannot control. It will burn the very grass that feeds you." Dingane laughed, a deep, rolling sound that shook the leaves. "What can burn me? I am Dingane. My will is iron." The spirit sighed, a sound like a distant waterfall. "Then let this be my warning, you hunt what is not yours. The true leopard hunts only for need. The false leopard, consumed by hunger, falls into the trap. Heed this, the greatest river is destroyed not by the spear, but by the tiny, relentless termite." With that, she dissolved into the mist rising from the water, leaving only her words echoing in the empty air. Dingane felt a chill, but shook it off. "Even spirits desire me," he thought, his pride swelling like a poisoned gland. The warning became, in his mind, a challenge. Soon after, the clan prepared for the wedding of Thandi, the daughter of a respected elder, to a gentle and skilled potter named Saifo. The wedding day was filled with song and the smell of roasting meat. Thandi was radiant, her joy alight to all. As she danced, Dingane watched. The warning of the river spirit was ash in the wind. Thandi's beauty was a prize, and her union with a simple potter felt, to him, an insult. His isthumbu roared. In the shadowed chaos of the celebrations, he used his authority to draw Thandi aside, speaking of urgent clan matters. When they were away from the firelight, his manner changed. He pressed upon her, his words a mix of promise and threat. Why waste yourself on a man who shapes dirt? With me, you would be wife to a king. Your family would want for nothing. Refuse me, and who knows what misfortune might befall your potter's hands? Terrified, confused by the sudden turn from a man she had revered, Thandi fled. But the damage was done. Saipho saw her distress and confronted Dingane. Before the assembled wedding guests, the Induna lied with smooth elegance. The girl came to me with fears about your ability to provide. I was merely comforting her. The wedding was ruined. Though Thandi and Saipho were later married in a somber ceremony, a shadow lay over them. The people's trust in Dingane fractured. The elders frowned. The crack in the mountain was now a visible crevice, and from it seeped the first drops of distrust. Dingane, feeling the shift, grew arrogant and defiant. He took a third, then a fourth wife, without proper negotiation, straining the clan's cattle and relationships. He would visit the unmarried maiden's hut, Isagodlo, not as a protector, but as a predator in the night. The final straw came with Noma, a girl promised to the spirit of the ancestors to be a healing Sangoma. She was sacred, set apart. When Dingane laid his desires upon her, the entire clan shuddered as if struck by lightning. The elders assembled. You have offended the living and now the dead, cried the oldest. Your isthumbu has made you deaf to the ancestors. You are no longer fit to lead. In a council fire that burned through the night, they stripped him of his headdress and his title. The leopard's tooth talisman felt cold against his chest. For the first time, Dingane felt fear. That night, he performed the rituals, sacrificing a goat, begging the ancestors for a sign of forgiveness. He waited by the sacred kraal. Only silence answered. No rustle of approval, no sense of presence. The connection was severed. His power, which flowed from the respect of his people and the favor of his forefathers, dried up like a stream in drought. He was just a large, empty shell of a man, hollowed out by his own hunger. Shamed and raging, Dingane fled the homestead. He became a wanderer, a ghost of his former self. His famous strength began to wane, for a spirit without purpose is a weak one. His charm curdled into bitterness. He survived on roots and stolen scraps, his fine leopard skin now torn and filthy. 1 year later, during the great summer rains, he found himself back at the banks of the Umfolozi River. It was swollen and furious, brown with the soil it tore from the banks. He was a skeleton wrapped in skin, his eyes still burning with a desperate, unmet want. He saw a figure on the opposite bank, a beautiful young woman drawing water. Even in his wretched state, the old, foul flame flickered. You, he croaked, wading into the raging current. Come to me. I am still Dingane. The woman looked up. It was Nomkhubulwane, but also Thandi, and Noma, and all the women he had wronged, reflected in one serene, terrible face. The termite has done its work, false leopard, her voice echoed over the water's roar. Your strength is eaten away. Your pride is hollow. The river does not drown the strong warrior, but it always swallows the one who cannot swim against his own chaos. He snarled and plunged deeper, driven by his last, foolish impulse to take. But his legs, once so powerful, were weak. The current, which he once commanded with his presence, now commanded him. The weight of his deeds was the stone around his neck. The water pulled him under. He grasped for the leopard's tooth at his throat, and it came loose in his hand. As the river filled his lungs, he saw it clearly, not a trophy of power, but a marker of the beast he had let devour his humanity. The Umfolozi River churned and then flowed on, cleansing, eternal. On the bank, where he had last stood, lay a single, water-smooth leopard's tooth, soon buried in the mud. Back at the Hlubi homestead, the rains brought renewal. Saifo and Thandi's first child was born, strong and smiling. A new, wise Induna was chosen, one who understood that true power was a knife, to be used to protect the circle of the clan, not to cut pieces from it for oneself. On quiet nights, when the elders saw young men growing too proud, they would tell the story of Dingane. They would point to the roaring Umfolozi in the distance. He had the strength of Ingwe, they would say, but he fed it the wrong meat. He thought his desires were a fire to warm himself, but he let it become a wildfire that consumed his homestead, his honor, and finally, him.